Good afternoon. Thank you, Manos, for the introduction. It's not necessary to repeat it. Thank you for coming to this event. Probably you cannot avoid some overlapping from the previous presentation, but I'll try to speed it up. So, the inequality between men and women is another historical problem related to all aspects of the economical and social life worldwide. The developed countries actually recognized this problem relatively early and began taking measures to reverse it. That was because a large workforce was required due to this development, first, and second, because women in these countries, the developed countries, being more stimulated, demanded their participation in education, employment, and social activities in various ways quite early. Of course, this inequality becomes more intense in undeveloped or developing countries because it is connected to the poverty as well, to hard cultural stereotypes, okay, or to very hard religious perceptions. See now what happens in Iran. As usual, every year, the International Women's Day is dedicated to building a world free of bias, stereotypes, and discrimination to achieve a gender parity. This year, as the world comes out from a pandemic and faces immediate challenges from the war in Europe related to energy security and climate change, this message becomes more strong, okay? This aim must not be overshadowed and that momentum cannot be lost. In any case, to achieve, to succeed in breaking the bias, it is clear that individuals, society and business collectively must play a role in reinforcing this awareness of the need for creating a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive world. I underline this word equitable because as long as the struggle for gender equality exists, there are discussions and debates about what the concept gender equality means and how it can be used. Equality and equity are not the same. Equality means that people's rights, responsibilities, and opportunities will not depend on whether they were born male or female. But equity means that we're giving everyone what he or she needs to be successful. The right picture, you say. We treat them according to their needs and give opportunities, give benefits, so they can have an equal access to a system and an equal access to a result finally. So the purpose is to create fair rules of play. Otherwise, although equality is the ultimate goal, it cannot be achieved if we don't ensure the equity between not only men and women, but also men among men and among women. Therefore, if we don't see the whole life cycle of a woman, the barriers and the factors that affect all the entire development of that person, from the childhood to the youth and to the adulthood, such as low quality of teaching, stereotypes, sexism, racism, and we try to take measures after the bottleneck, then we have lost all the content of the body behind it. A holistic understanding, therefore, of every individual's journey is required from preschool to adult education, where men and women, women and men continue to encounter gender stereotypes and discrimination, and all this can affect life choices and career paths. To this direction, education is a very important factor. Education is a lifelong process and a catalyst for creating a world of human rights. Education increases skills, improves productivity, provides individuals with greater ability to develop knowledge and skills throughout their life. It also makes women and men better equipped and secure to demand well-paid jobs, and of course to fight all risks that social exclusion can create. Unfortunately, gender stereotypes are still in teaching materials. Textbooks contain many stereotypes, providing examples through images that diminish the role of women, especially in the case when men and women are depicted in professional context. In many cases, this is still remain at the responsibility of schools and teachers. Especially when you have somebody like teachers with the authority to say and describe a world that you are not in as a girl, as a woman. Okay, it's like to see in a mirror and you see nothing. So the main problem is how to stimulate teachers in close cooperation with parents. Family plays a very important role as well, and make all these things a normal part of the daily life. I will say something additionally to what the previous speaker said about the quality index. I didn't expect that when I saw it. I didn't expect that Greece was at the last position. And actually, with its 52.2 out of 100 points, the score of Greece is 15.7, below the European Union average, and it's at this position for more than 1 decade. No progress. I was surprised when I saw it. When we come to, more specifically to the energy sector, traditionally the debate on the interrelationship between gender, climate change and energy has been divided in two relative distinct issues. The first concerns mainly the developing countries. It is based on the need to understand the inequality of women to energy uses and services, as women, as you know, are the main producers and managers of energy at the household scale. Therefore, there is a widespread debate, new development plans, economical supporting in order to reverse this kind of inequalities. In the developed countries, the analysis of the relationship between women and energy are largely focused on the relation of the careers of the women in the energy sector and the gender differences. Unfortunately, nowadays, the first issue is not, let's say, privilege, not a good privilege, of course, of the third world anymore. It is knocked at our window of all the developed countries, especially of the European countries, due to the policies followed in energy. The energy poverty includes more and more European citizens. The mistake is made when we equate availability with access. Although on paper it appears that all European citizens have access to the energy and electricity services from the technical perspective, okay? When it does not mean that all European citizens have equal access. When we move from availability and consider also affordability, then we see serious inequalities in access. The first issue, accessibility of women in energy uses and services, is by itself a very large discussion. It has multiple social and economic dimensions. This is another matter of the discussion. It is not covered by this presentation, which is focused on the second one. In any case, energy is, and keep in mind, energy is a social commodity, and the ability of all citizens to access it, according to my opinion, it's a matter of justice and democracy. Let's see the energy sector more specifically. The energy sector is missing practically the experiences, the skills, and the talents of much of half of the population. There are several barriers that creates problem to women to entry in the energy sector. And these barriers are related to the perception of the gender roles, to cultural and social norms, or to prevailing hiring practices and policies. And of course, you see, lack everywhere. Lack, limited. Let's see some effects of these barriers. The lack of STEM background. When we say STEM, is science, technology, engineering, mathematics. These are the fields of education from where energy sector attracts labor forces and talents. According to the most recent data from Eurostat 2020, the picture on the right, okay, the distribution of the European Union graduates by field and sex show that women prefer to follow studies at arts and humanities down. As we go out to engineering and computer science, we have a totally opposite picture. So you see that gender gap in terms of the accessibility to STEM studies starts well before men and women enter the workforce. If we see the left picture, in European Union, women and men to STEM are of 40% and 60% respectively, which is the average European Union for males and females. See this picture, this coming picture, and consider this specific figure. In European Union, women that follow generally higher education are much more than men. Okay, it's 150 per 100 men. It means practically 50% more women than men. Although we have this picture, okay, the distribution afterwards is the pictures on the top. Same picture is more or less what you see here, where you see the different countries and the average in the European Union, which is 41%. But if we see more thoroughly to STEM studies, we realize that the selection of STEM disciplines differ dramatically. 50% choose natural science, mathematics, and statistics. Only 40%, only 24% engineering, and just only 19% information and computer science. Greece is not bad. Okay, it's quite close to this average, European Union average. But, although it's a good picture for Greece in this case, when we see the scientists and engineers that finally arrive at the workplace in high technology sectors, it's like this, 21 to 79. What does it mean? That qualified women are lost on the way to work. This is something we have to see and Investigate. What is STEM or not STEM, let's say? What is behind of this choice? As you see in this UNESCO diagram, it illustrates the environment from family to school and society in which a girl or a boy grows up and the stimuli it receives. There are two significant development periods in the life cycle of somebody. The childhood, the youth, and the youth, one, and the adulthood, the other. Childhood is when we begin to socialize and learn what society expects in terms of the behavior of girls or boys, men and women. As part of this socialization, boys are encouraged to explore the physical world, discover how things work, and solve problems. On the other hand, girls are encountered to be more social and participate in group activities. Girls are often brought up to believe that STEM subjects are masculine topics. That's what boys do. Another dimension of STEM stereotyping is that boys are better than girls at mathematics and science, which actually leads to another stereotype that boys in general have a higher level intellectual ability than girls. When we go and see into the energy work environment, again, lack, discouraging. But from all these barriers, cultural and social norms is again the top recognition for the career that women can follow in energy, their retention in this field, and the advancement, of course. The lack of workplace flexibility, as the previous speaker said, the lack of mentorship are ranked next. Despite the fact that women account for the 46% of the overall European labor force, the proportion of the women in the energy sector is very low. Nearly 25% work in energy-related industries, and much less, 15% to extractive industry, and the lowest is in mining of coal and lignite. Of course, we have to take into account that from this share, half of it, more or less, serves administrative positions, as was mentioned before, while men trend to work in engineering and business services. While one could argue that the difference in women advancement, as we shall see in the next slides, could be due to different academic qualifications, it cannot be explained by this picture, where we see that education levels are roughly similar for males and females, with around 50% bachelor, 35% master, 15% of doctorate degrees for both energy and non-energy industry, but still management positions are out of reach. More specifically, at senior management level, under a global view, it is really impressive to see so great differences between the countries with the highest and lowest female representation at this level for both energy and non-energy fields. The countries with the highest representation of women at senior management is Russia, followed by Australia and United Kingdom, and the lowest is Japan. Based on data from almost 3,500 firms and over 38,000 employers according to the International Energy Association survey, among the energy business lines, women in senior roles are better represented in the energy utility sector by 17%, as you see the bar on the right, followed by energy-related business at 12%, and to me, it was, I was surprised when I saw the renewable energy, which is very low percentage. Same more or less is the situation here, which shows that women in subsectors like water treatment, mining of metal ores, manufacturing of chemical is higher than the extractive industry as well on the level of official and management. Signs of improvement? I would like to see some signs of improvement. And the comparison of age of senior managers by gender, as you see, provides some insights on the direction which gender diversity will be in the years ahead. Younger age groups, especially women born in the 80s, which are currently 30 to 40 years old, seem to have a stronger advancement in positions of responsibility, getting gradually over the non-energy sector. But the higher up the corporate ladder we move, the fewest women we find. For the top management posts, like chair of boards, CEOs, presidents, women are less than 5%. For me, relatively similar the picture for the non-energy industries as well. Same qualitative results come out from the survey of McKinsey in the wider area of energy resources infrastructures and oil and gas industry as well, where we can see that the bottleneck, as we move to higher operational roles, is becoming extremely narrow. If we see now the participation of women in research and innovation, we shall see that women are listed at less than 11% of patent applications related to energy sector. That all based on the European Patent Office World Patent Statistical Database. It's encouraging that female investors are quite high in other technological sectors, like, for example, health and chemistry. According to IRENA survey, I come back to renewable energy. And I say it monospecifically because I think that this is something we have to take into account in the frame of the program, okay? I thought that because renewable energy offers a range of opportunities, women could have a better representation in this younger dynamic sector. And on the other hand, as being a multidisciplinary area, it will be more attractive for women than fossil fuel industry, for example. Unfortunately, to me, the 32% in renewable energy to 22% in the hard core of the energy sector, which is oil and gas, it is not satisfactory, and this is something that we have repeated to investigate in a better way. Let's see now the view of man. According again to the IRENA survey, in both questions, if they recognize, for example, that women working in the renewable energy sector face gender barriers, or if they believe that genders are paid equally, the 60% of men answer no in the first question and yes in the second question. To me, it's like they live somewhere else. Main remarks, okay, I will be fast. Cultural expectations, stereotypes, limited opportunities, men's awareness, etc., don't repeat them. Just to say this, energy sector needs to attract more women, not only because of the equality, but simply because it needs to be revitalized. And this is the only way to be revitalized. So, policies and solutions. Okay, all of these are very important and very useful, no doubt. But to me, the most important thing for men and women is to understand that inequality is a social construction and not a causality. I don't know if the word causality reflects what I want to say, but in Greek, causality for me means nomotelia. What does it mean practically? What I want to say is that inequality is a social construction and not a result according to certain fixed laws, and it's not the natural or the physical destiny of women. That's why it can be overturned. And this knowledge is absolutely useful and has to be focused, oriented to the men as well. Because that will be the only way for them to interpret reality and be more receptive in cooperation with the female colleagues. Also, training programs would be also focused to men and women. Okay, I feel sometimes that we treat women like being handicaps. And I don't like this, as I don't like the word quotas, for example. This is something that it doesn't represent women. Closing this presentation, which was just a touch, I would say, of the problem, and because we have young people here, let me express an optimistic message by few slogan-type words. I feel that I have this right as a woman and a mother who has followed studies of all types in the field of energy and served this field, the sector, from a number of different positions in a very male-dominated environment. I would say that I feel blessed for this path, satisfaction for my choices, and joy that through many difficulties, I became a stronger person, more competitive with my students and my colleagues. And that was because I loved what I did, and I respected my work and my people that I had around me. So, believe in yourself. Follow what makes you truly happy in life and education. Break family and society stereotypes. Be well qualified. Keep this involved. Knowledge generates rights. Don't give up on dreams and goals. Be visible in the work environment. Don't turn from responsibility. Don't hide. Learn to collaborate. Always make sure that you are fairly valued. Don't forget it. And this is very important. Claim and demand the support owed to you by state, society, and employers. The rise of a woman is not about the fall of a man. We're not in this fight, women and men. It's a matter of democracy and human rights. This is a message. I think that it will be useful for you, and thank you.